So let's start with your analysis of the Houthi missiles targeting the airport, and how did they get through?
You know, it's a good question. Let's remember that the Houthis are a terrorist organization in Yemen supported by Iran. And these sorts of attacks would not be possible if it weren't for that support from Iran. So I think President Trump is right to highlight that, as is Prime Minister Netanyahu. You know, the United States has been pummeling the Houthis for weeks now, and I do believe that in the end they will be unsuccessful unless we don't address the patron in Iran. But this was a missile that was launched toward Israel. Houthis have done this many times, and it's not some special gee whiz super advanced missile. They'd like to claim that it is, but it appears to be more of the same type of missiles that they've launched to Israel before. Israel has successfully shot these down in the past, but in this instance, Israel's Arrow air and missile defense system, one of the most advanced in the world, as well as the U.S. Army Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD system, both failed to down this missile. That's a notable failure. We got to understand what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. It appears that it might have been a technical issue with the interceptor in the case of the Arrow system, as opposed to something related to detection. But there's still open questions about why the THAAD system, which is also deployed to Israel, also failed to down this incoming Houthi missile.
So, Brad, the Houthis, they've vowed to not stop these kinds of attacks until the war in Gaza is over. What else do you think we could see them do?
You know, they've launched, as I said, many missiles. They've launched drones. There was one drone that got through in Tel Aviv and killed individuals in Tel Aviv. So I would predict that they will continue to conduct these sorts of strikes. There are additional targets that we can hit in Yemen, but this is a determined group that is explicitly anti-American and anti-Semitic, and we should expect these attacks to continue as long as they have the means, and many of those means are coming from the Islamic Republic of Iran. So if we continue to go after the Houthis and don't address Iran, it's a bit like cleaning up puddles in your home and not addressing the leak in your roof.
Yeah, you know, we've seen a lot of tough talk toward Iran from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We also know that they're very focused and put a great deal of value on getting the hostages home who are still in Gaza. How does that, Brad, weigh into the decision-making process?
Right. So the Houthis are saying they're continuing to attack Israel because of the war in Gaza. So that's one reason why these will continue. And let's not forget that, you know, roughly 59 of these hostages, about half of which horribly are already dead, have been there since the horrific October 7th Hamas terror attack. And so Israel and the United States want those hostages released. Hamas has horribly refused to release them and sickly has refused to even give the dead bodies back. And so it's understandable that Israel would want to go in and get those hostages. But a major renewed ground operation in Gaza is going to be very, very resource intensive and require the call up of thousands of Israeli reservists. And may be directly at odds with getting the remaining hostages home alive.
Okay, Brad Bowman with FDD, great to have you with us this evening. We appreciate your expertise.